Okay, welcome everyone, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition Show. My name is James M. Overton, and I'm here with host Leah J. Stitz. She'll be on shortly. Thomas the Colonel Chapman, and our recurring guest host Roderick Hawthorne. And hello, everybody. How you doing?
All right.
This is another one of those times where the hosts come on and talk about national issues. It's a lot to talk about, a lot of stuff happening, that's kind of crazy out there. So
A lot happened.
we better get Colonel to give that disclaimer.
Yes. So I'll give the disclaimer, keep us out of a Facebook jail.
Out of jail, period.
Yes. And the views stated on this program are just the host, and we don't have a guest today. But it's no third party talking of it. It's just us, and they're all personal views, and we're stating the fact. Not like that Fox and Friends.
Yeah. Speaking of Fox, we'll get to them in a little bit.
Yes.
But
That's why I brought it up.
the mega thing that Trump brought in, he just put words to something that was going on all along, and it's continuing, making America great again. And reading that book by the Whitefield.
Yeah.
It really describes everything that's going on now. But
Yeah.
Colonel, you mentioned Fox, and if you want to start out by talking about that case and how it ended up and what they did.
Well,
how they protecting those phonies.
yes, Fox was scared to go before the trial. You had they were being sued in civil court for $1.6 billion. And they could have lost that. But the company that was suing them had, even though they had the goods on Fox, they probably wouldn't have got paid for another 10 years because Fox could have strung this out like Trump does, and all of them would be, it have been 5 years before, 10 years before they would have gotten any money. So Fox settled for half of what was they were being sued for. But Fox has several more.
Which is still a lot of money.
Yeah, still a lot of money, like $700
surely
billion and something.
$787 billion.
Million dollars.
But Cinematic is another thing that have $6.2 billion that they're suing them for.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fox made a strategic blunder. They should have rolled up those two two companies and settled both of them at the one time, and they could have got off cheaper. So from what they were cheaper, and they'd have killed the two biggest lawsuits that they have. So they made a strategic blunder and a short-sighted thing, trying to go one by one. And they should have rolled up those one there, and they probably could have got away with it and got away with 2.5 to settle all of it.
Yeah, it makes a better case for the remaining guys that are suing them,
Yes, I would have done. I'd have rolled them all up into one package. That's what I would have done, but they didn't call me.
What do you think, Roger? Well, you can talk about what you think about Fox in general and how they folded. One of the things they did too was protect their big boys, their big money makers, that are on there telling lies and everything.
Because they didn't have to petition them to come speak.
Right. If they hadn't settled, those guys would have had to testify.
Yes.
And they would have to admit to lying.
Mm-hmm.
But it was easy for the head of the company to say, yeah, we lied. But to get those guys on air guys to lie, then that would kill their audience, although
100%.
people know they're lying, but their audience want to believe that they're telling the truth, and it's entertainment for them. So
actually,
go ahead, Roger.
Make the difference. Their audience would not care. They do not care.
They don't care.
They lie. Plus, they would have couched it saying we were forced to take this settlement. And you can look at what Fox and Friends have talked about, talking about the settlement, they don't even cover it. And then so in the half done statement that they had to do, it basically doesn't say anything. They did admit to their lie. They don't admit to
They didn't have to.
yeah, they didn't have to. And so they are going back on business as usual. The people that advertise on Fox are still there, and Fox is making money hand over fist.
Mhm.
Yep.
And
Plus, they're gonna have to pay more money out now when the new groups come against them. You know, they have
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 different companies that are coming against them now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just
And they're
mentioned,
gonna settle. They're gonna settle. They're not gonna let any more information get out. I can guarantee you that.
yeah,
Too much information got out this time.
but you know what else they did? You know, we said they protect the big boys, but they find a lot of those people with less ratings, you know, like what's that lady that was a former judge, but a lot of those people that were on there telling, they had this guy that was
Janine was
FBI
Janine,
yeah, the
Janine,
guy that was
whoever.
the ex FBI agent or that got on there and they gave him a show. They took him off.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that didn't have the ratings like the big 3 had, you know,
Only-
somebody had to
they'll
sacrifice.
be back. I
Sacrifice.
bet you $1 they'll be back though.
Who?
They'll be back. They'll bring them right on back in another won't even be 6 months, and they'll be back on stage.
I should have figured out how I could get in on this lawsuit.
I know. Well, you know what? The thing is, why they settled is because one, from a civil case, it was going to turn into a criminal case because they held information that should have been disclosed in discovery. And then, so saying that because the judge appointed a special master who has the piece that I can indict those who have been hiding all the information that they're supposed to have. So they were scared of going to jail for a lot of them. And then
Yeah, I think it was you're right, Colonel. I think it was the special masters that made them decide that it was time for them to throw in the towel.
yeah,
Because if they didn't see the need to throw in the towel when all that information was being put out there to the public,
yeah,
they know that their master, that person could come after them.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, turns from a civil action to a criminal action. And so
Exactly.
criminal, I go to jail, and all I have to do is stroke a tick on the civil piece, and so that's why they did it. And they'll keep making money. They're printing money right now. They'll go up on the commercial money that they take in, and it's not even going to really affect them. That little bit of chump change for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, chump
Drop in the bucket.
Yes.
Let's go to something else. Because Fox will continue as they did. They just got a little blow, and it was good to see. During the whole time, they were getting publicity, like you said, Colonel, and they're going to go up on their rates, and you know, because people were still watching. People,
Yep.
you know, but that's Fox. But anyway, we can wish for them to fall, but they won't. The
Yes.
giant will not fall. Let's talk about some of, you know, and it's always been this issue out there for a long time about sensible gun control laws. And, you know, with all the stuff that's happening, I mean, every day we see, you know, we 9-year-olds getting killed. People are just going in places and shooting them up. And when they check these people out, what's the state again that eliminated even having a license to carry?
Florida.
Florida?
No, it wasn't Florida. It wasn't Florida. It was in the Midwest.
Several,
It was in the Midwest.
yeah, in the Confederacy, it's spreading around everywhere.
Yeah, but this particular state, I don't know if it's Tennessee, but it had one, might have been Alabama. They had a recent shooting.
Yeah,
And usually when they investigate the shooters, it's something in their background that should have kept them from even getting a gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but this is after the fact. But, you know, unless they pass some laws that have some teeth where you can catch those people up front, we're going to keep on reading about these shooters after they killed people that they shouldn't have had a gun from the first place.
I agree.
well, I'll go even further than that. We've had so many mass shootings in this country we've probably in the last 4 months, we've probably doubled for what we, we're getting to what we almost had all of last year. And then so we have too many weapons of war. You add that back up and say, we live in a country that has lost their mind. And we live in a country that half of the country does not believe in diversity. And so you have people that will, like in North Carolina, where the father playing basketball in their driveway, the ball goes in your next door neighbor's yard, and he shoots the father and wounds a 6-year-old child just for chasing after a basketball. What kind of craziness?
And all of us can remember that happened, the baseball rolling in the wrong person's yard. There's always somebody in the community that you don't walk on his grass or you don't throw your ball in there. But it was never.
But you're not getting shot.
Yeah, never on the threat of getting shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a neighbor who would take your ball. You never get the balls back.
Yeah.
Never get back.
Yeah, he probably had a bucket full of balls, but
You know it too, that's for sure.
And I say all of you other co-hosts have traveled throughout the world, a lot, Africa, and talk about, what do you think? Because the United States is the only one that we don't have the kind of gun laws that prevent this kind of thing. Other countries, you can talk about some other countries, but you don't see that kind of mass shootings like you see here, except if it's something like terrorists, out there. But everyday shooting going in schools. I'm saying other countries do it, but a lot of countries that have those strict gun laws, you don't see that kind of thing happening. So I mean,
wasn't it in New Zealand who had the mass shooting, and then the president of the country had a major buyback of the weapons and got all the weapons from off of the streets?
Yeah,
and they've not had any more incidents at all.
Yeah, she acted
in New Zealand
immediately.
But I go back on the point that this country has gone crazy because one,
common sense not always so
common sense, but everybody puts the Second Amendment and being saying that you can have a gun, and we've gone so crazy that a gun or a weapon has turned into a weapon of war, and so anybody can get an AR-15 and take somebody out because I got a weapon of war, and we can't put any stops to it or curb it with sensible gun regulations or for background checks because of the NRA. Because all of the Republican Party or the Confederates in the air will not do a thing. So if your child gets shot, or if you get shot, or if you get robbed at gunpoint, or if you get killed, or if you are injured by a weapon of war, call your Republican member of Congress and thank them for what happened to you, because they are the ones that are responsible for it. They are totally responsible for every bullet that goes back here that happens now. They are responsible. So thank them for everything that goes through all these mass shootings, because they're responsible for it. And don't let it.
And Colonel, on top of the weapons of war, and then you have the radicalization of people through programs like Fox and this bit about they're coming for you. You have to be afraid of these people, so it's really making
they keep perpetuating the cycle.
Exactly. So,
and they have people out there buying guns that probably wouldn't think about buying guns or owning guns because of the kind of environment that is created by all these mass shootings and people having guns, going back to people having guns that shouldn't. Well, because it's a lot of responsible gun owners out here that have it for several reasons, but you never would know it because until they were, their back was against the wall and they had to protect themselves or their family. But they're not going out and say, well, I'm mad at this person. I'm mad at the people that do it. So I'm gonna go out there and take them out because, you know, they took my money, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm a gun owner and served all my time in the military. But I'm a responsible gun owner.
Same
And Leah, you
on both sides.
yes. So Leah talked about what'd she say? About these gun owners. We as a nation need to really get a hold of this before it is too late. And Leah talked about the others. State-run TV, what I call Fox, because it's no longer American TV. State-run TV has marginalized all people of color and has radicalized the other side of the house. For all the folks in the trailers and those who stand around and look at that 24-hour loop of nothing but racism, listen to Tucker Carlson and the rest of them jokers out there. So that's why you got the girl that got shot, the cheerleaders got in the wrong car, and who they shoot first?
The black girl.
Yes, shot her first while trying to shoot the other ones. Why? There is no stand your ground or no, there's nothing to say that I am scared for my life because they were unarmed. They got out of the car. The girl went to the wrong car. These cheerleaders went to wrong cars. They saw the weapon and started trying to get away. But you're going to pull your weapon out and try to kill them all. What's wrong with these folks?
I don't know, but what can we, you know, because what can localities do? You know, the Congress, you know, they're stuck on stupid, and it's not a whole lot they're going to do because of the NRA and money that comes into them, you know, until it really hits their family. And I think if it hits their family, it still won't make a difference because the money will be more than what they, you know, can emotionally handle as far as a family member getting killed. But locally, what can we do locally, co-host? That might curb some of the violence that happened in locally until we can get, you know, the national stage to act. You know, what can we do locally? Because some things have to start locally. Because we're not experiencing mass shootings, but we are experiencing, you know, people getting killed by gun. We are experiencing gun violence. What do you think we can do locally?
I think that it really is going to start, like you said, on a community level. And it has to outrage enough people to actually get off their sofas and couches and do something about it. You know, when people normally don't ever try to make a difference in certain areas until it personally affects them. And, you know, we can sit here and, you know, mourn and be mad about things that we see happen in other communities across the country, but until it affects us personally or someone close to us that it affects them personally, it's not something that we go out and say, hey, we need to be at the next city council meeting about this, and this. And I think that's what needs to happen. It has to be a movement.
And you're right, and it's a shame that it has to hit us personally before we act. You know, many times, okay, how many times people look at movies, fictional movies, and see people getting shot and sit there and tear up, you know, behind a movie. So but what's happening in real life don't move them enough to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a sad state. You know, when it has to hit so close to home in order for us to take some action. I believe,
you know, I think once again we're going to be in a place where Scripture tells us, and a young child will lead them. I'm looking at Tennessee alone. I'm looking at the young folks in Tennessee. I'm looking at the young folks in Florida. And I think the more that the young folks get together and come out here and fight this battle, I think that a change is going to be made. Because look at Wisconsin. Because the young folks came out to vote, that judge was voted in. They weren't expecting her to win. But the young folks came out, and young folks don't usually vote in these off-season elections. They don't usually come out to vote. But in Wisconsin, those young people came out and they let their voice be heard. So I think what's going to happen is, and as I see and talk to different people in different states, and they talk about what the young people are doing in their states, I think it's going to be a youth movement. It's going to make a difference because these older folks are not, they're not getting it. They're not getting it. They're not responding to what's going on. And they're just kind of sitting back waiting for the legislators to do it. The legislators are not going to do it. Not those who are there now. Some people are going to have to be put out of office. You have to put some folks out of office in order to effect a change.
I agree with that. And I think too, there's so many people in those positions in office who have their own personal agendas. So, you know, when you are not speaking the voice of the community or the voice of the people, and you're not listening to communities telling you that they're hurt, telling you what they're going through, you miss the mark. And it doesn't allow for you to really speak to the truth of what's happening in those communities. And for me, I totally agree. Like when it comes to youth being engaged, I think it's really going to come from younger elected officials who actually give a damn about kids and their communities. They're the ones that's really going to have to push, because you think about it, it's not that many young people in office. It's still the same people that's been in office for 20, 30 plus years.
I think
And you don't see younger
I think you're going to have to put qualified younger people on that, because we
Yeah,
had young people in office
yeah,
that didn't meet those qualifications, and
James.
you generalize, and Leah, you generalize old people. As an old person, I have to disagree with you.
I'm an old person. I'm an old person,
people.
James. I'm an old person, but
Yeah,
we're not gonna get. We're not getting
You
out
seasoned.
here.
You
it's a
seasoned.
lot of us.
That's it.
It's a lot of us involved, Leah. You know,
We
you
are
make a
involved,
statement like
James.
that.
But
That's
I'm
too
talking about involved.
generalizing old people.
I'm talking about involved to
Got
the
some
level
lazy
that
young
those
people
young
too.
folks in Tennessee. Yeah, we do have them in all areas. In all areas.
I think it's a thing, and people, you know, whatever touches your soul, young or old, you know, that's who you have to go after. And when you start generalizing and making that separation of old and young, that's when we have a problem. Because I mean, if you want to sit down and spell out, you got problems on both sides, young and old. And I can give you examples of some older people that need to get out of office, and some younger people that probably need to get out of office and will put out of office because they weren't ready, or they didn't
Well,
care.
let me say this then, James. Individuals who are serving, who are not interested in lining their pockets, but wishing to effectuate a change.
Yes.
And I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. Yes.
But
And
I do think that
that
we
could be
need
anybody.
more younger people who can affect change in positions of power, because when you have older people who have been in those positions for so long, and they have become accustomed to how they operate and how they show up, that's normally how they just go be. That's how they are. They are stuck in their ways. That's what they view. That's what it's going to be. And sometimes it's very hard to change the thought process of an older person than it is to change the thought process of a younger person.
But all the younger people all of them are not ready.
I agree with you.
A lot of them are not
James.
ready. So that it just gets me when you just say, when you're using the general young and old. That's what bothers me. You just
Well, James,
qualified citizens is what you. If they happen to be young, that's fine. And I agree with you, Roger. We do need people that are younger, that will be around longer, that come up with new ideas, but they got to be qualified to do it. And if we just go with the younger people, and we've done that, put people in there because they were younger and we trusted, we believed in them, and they got in office and we found out they weren't ready.
Well, James, let me qualify what I said. Okay, let me qualify what I said. When I said younger people effectuating a change, what I was referring to is historically, when you look at the movement, when you look at the movement in Soweto, it was the children of Soweto who started the movement. When you look at the civil rights movement, it was the children who started the civil rights movement. When you look at most of the movements that have taken place throughout this nation, it's the children who have come together to effectuate the change. So when I said older and young, I was not disqualifying anyone. I'm just saying that historically, it has been the younger children who have come out, who've decided that enough is enough, and they're not going to do it anymore. See, we have to realize we have people who've been in office for 50 years. For 50 years, you know what I mean? In Congress.
And some of them are
Mhm.
still effective
Some of them are still effective.
because
Some of
they
them
were
are.
those younger people that started and made and were change agents when they were young, and they
Mhm.
still effective. Now you
I
have
agree.
some that are not.
I agree with you.
You know, again, I'll say you can't generalize.
I think we look at it in the sense of I can give the example of just looking at the IC Norcom Alumni Association. The association operated in a specific way for years, and they stayed and they coasted for years in the same place for the longest time. And until you got younger people into the association that were qualified enough to do their jobs in those respective areas for the association, we have taken the association further in the last few months than the association has been in the time that it has been established.
And I'm not going to disagree with that. And you're exactly right. But for a long time, the reason the alumni stayed like it was because no younger people would cared enough to get involved. And I'm
And you
glad.
know why they didn't
I'm
get
glad
involved? Because the
because
older people were stuck in their ways and didn't want to change anything and move forward.
so it's no old people in the association now.
Oh, yes,
No,
there
it
is.
is.
Right, so it's
But
working.
I tell
It's
you the
working
one
with
I
young
tell you
and
there's a
old.
lot of people that have gone that couldn't move it forward because they were stuck in their ways. So
Okay,
those people had to be moved aside to make room for the people to come in to invoke change.
well, and that's what happened. So I agree that that's what had to happen.
And I feel like that's literally what's going to have to happen on all levels of government.
But the ones that stayed there, they weren't stuck in their ways. They were
Oh
No,
no,
acceptable to change,
I
and they're
agree.
still there.
you know,
I
James,
agree.
it
And
just
it's
gets
going
to
to
the
take a
place where we have
combination
to,
of old and young to get.
but see,
If you
James, it
had
has to
nothing
get to,
but young, you don't have
it
that.
has, it has to get to the place where we realize that everybody brings something to the table.
Mhm.
We don't dismiss, and I was wrong in saying old and young. I was just trying to use it as a thought as to how the movement began. But it's when we realize that we bring something to the table as seasoned individuals. The younger people bring something to the table as seasoned individuals. As younger people, they bring that talent, they bring that knowledge, they bring all those skills that we may not have had. So it's a matter of us realizing that we have to embrace each other. Yeah, are we going to always be in agreement? No, we're not. No, we're not. But we have to look at what's best for the whole, not what's best for one group as opposed to what's best for the other group. Is what's the best thing for the entire group, and embrace those things, come together and work together, and realize that not all of my thoughts are going to be dealt with. Not all of Roderick's thoughts are going to be dealt with, but we take the best of what we have in order for us to move forth into the future.
And
I
I
agree.
agree. And I'll tell you what got me rised up a little bit. And you worded that perfectly. It's how the presentation or how you do it. Now, what got me is when those guys came in, the younger guys came in politically, they were saying, their thing was like, old people, all you need to get rid of all of
I
them.
agree with you, James. I
And
agree with you.
and when I heard that again, it
It
rises
gets you
my
riled up.
thinking.
But see, James,
So it's your
once again, James, like you
presentation.
said, qualified young people who are not there for financial gain,
Right.
but
Mhm.
there in order to make it better for the whole.
For the
That's
good,
what we
for the
look
good
for.
of the alumni,
For
for
the
the good of
good of the
Washington.
alumni, for the good of the city, and not
Mhm.
concerned about what's good for me.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
when you are a civil servant, when you are a servant, you must have the servant mentality,
Right.
not the I'm the king and I'm the ruler mentality. You know, James, a lot of people get upset with me because they said that I have let the young people come in and kind of do what they want to do. But they bring such a vast amount of knowledge to the group to help us to advance. James, we are places we've never been before. Do you hear me? But it's all a matter of, like, again, once I say, us coming together, realizing the gifts that each of us have, and allowing those gifts to flourish within the whole.
Mhm.
And I will say, as you know, some of the old people, I have to say this too, we have to be accepting to change.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we have
you.
to be a part of that, you know, our
And
last show, the
and
show,
it's the other way too. The younger people have to realize they have to be accepting of the older people because we have the knowledge that we're working from
yeah, and I agree.
And and the
Go ahead,
experience.
Roger. Oh, go
I
ahead.
said, and the experience.
and the experience. That's for sure.
Yeah,
And the
You know,
experience.
yeah,
you guys walked the earth in a time where, you know, we didn't experience those things. We didn't really experience racism at the level that you guys experienced it. We didn't experience you know, having to go through much of the hardships that you guys had to go through during that time. Now, do we have our own during this time? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because everything is in our face now. Everything is at our fingertips now. You know, back then, we didn't know, you guys didn't know what was going on all day, every day around the world, what was happening for you to be able to see it. It's so, I don't think we even ever talk about how traumatic that is for a generation of people to constantly see death all the time. It's literally on rerun all the time. You guys saw it sporadically. That was enough for it to make and invoke change in your lives. But we see it so much. It's like to the point where you hear people say we've become desensitized to so much of it because it's happened so much. It's happened so frequently.
Mhm.
So for us, you know, I appreciate everything that you guys went through because you bring a whole nother form of knowledge and understanding and experience that we didn't go through, but we're also bringing that same thing as well. It's just two different time frames.
yeah, and even with that, we can disagree and then and move on. We don't walk away from a disagreement. You know,
Thank you,
Mhm.
a lot of
James.
times,
You don't walk away because it's not
yeah,
going your way.
right? Because a
Exactly.
lot of times you walk away. I mean, not walk away, but when you go from that discussion you have time to think about it and say, well, you know what, the point that person made sense. Because sometime in the heat of it, you know, you're gonna stand your ground, but then you know you got to be able to come back and say, okay, you were right. And you can't walk away from all agreements. But we can move on to yeah, we got into that, you know, because that was local.
I
And
got one
that's
comment,
that's
Slim.
go ahead. And that's something we can do something about locally.
Yeah,
Appreciate
but
that conversation. Thanks, y'all.
yeah, but one thing, everybody's used this word qualified when you run in for office. What's the qualifications to run for office nowadays? That you got it, you down there, you went down there downtown and you paid whatever fee is to run and you got enough signatures. So you are qualified to run. So we have to get past that piece to actually vet those people that are running to see if they are going to be servant leaders. They believe in the organization. They have a vision and just not like in sound bites that they can read off somebody else's notes. And then we go on from there.
Good point, Colonel, about the word qualified. That
Yeah.
doesn't hold a lot of weight. And
It
I
doesn't hold any weight at all.
because anybody can be qualified if they can
Anybody. That's
write
why
and read.
so many people running for city council that should never run.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
yeah,
agree.
So what other word or term would you use?
uh, and use those qualifications as yes, you can run, but what is the vision and do you have a track record within your community, within your sphere of influence? What have you done in the past, and where do you want to take the people that are supposedly going to vote for you and didn't vote for you? Where are you going to take them from? How you get them from A to B, and what's going to be accomplished in there? And if you don't get them there, why didn't you get them there?
Yeah, you're right. So that comes after qualified. That comes after the responsibility then falls on us as far as vetting. And that's what we don't do after the people qualify for
Yes.
whatever they're going to run for. Then it's on us to vet them properly and then express to our leaders that make those appointments that we have no control over, express our feelings. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, qualified and then vet.
Qualified vet and voter education.
Yeah.
And vote.
We
Period.
should do and vote. Most of all, vote.
Yeah.
Vote.
Well, now that we've gone down this rabbit hole, and we talked about earlier about how can America fix things and turn this ship around in this narrow track. We have to have a bottom up plan. We have to fix our street, take care of our neighborhood, our street, and then you work up to the community, and then you have to fix that city, and then that state, and all up and down. And the only way you could do that, one of the ways too, is you have to get everybody educated. And then you have to get people good paying jobs with benefits.
I think that's the first thing, Colonel, because I saw recently this mom spoke to I want to say they spoke to a council for the Virginia school board, if I'm not mistaken. And the mother she worked for the CIA in the inclusion and diversity office. And she was talking about how her daughter was being taught that basically in their curriculum that Black people really didn't come from greatness. You know, they either came from slaves or they were servants. And, you know, she had to say, well, you know, is this what you guys are really teaching our children, that automatically out the gate, they are less than, and they are not worthy enough to hold high positions or get good jobs or be treated equally. And when you're being taught as a child this, it's really hard to change that mindset once you get older, because you've basically been bred to think this way your whole life. For me, it comes down to the education part and writing and rewriting these history books to tell another story.
Yes. And you see
and that's going to be a hard thing, because they want to teach their curriculum how they want to teach it.
Right.
And that's why it's called history, because it's
His
his story.
It is his story. It is his story, and they've taken the bits and pieces, the good bits and pieces of the history, and put that in the books. They've left out very valuable portions of the history has been left out. So
Right.
it's just a matter, you know. And like I used to say a long time ago, Roderick, I was going to call you, but a long time, as I traveled the country, and I looked at different places, like if I were in the indigenous people area, they would have Saturday schools for their kids. If I go into the Asian American community, they had schools for their kids. You go to the Hispanic community, they had schools for their children. But they were not relying upon the school system to teach their children their history. We're the only people who send our children out there and think that they're going to get their history, think that they're going to get something beyond Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, all made great sacrifices for this country. But there's so much more to our history that our kids just don't have.
Totally
And and what you were talking about, right? That's how they did the Lynch. What's his name? Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch. You know, they feed this stuff to you. They feed this wrong information to you on a continuous basis, to the point that you soon begin to believe it. So it's up to us. And what they used to say, each one teach one. It's up to us to teach our children. We can't rely on anybody else to have them to teach our children their history.
And
I mean, it's really serious with the school to prison pipeline. I mean,
that's for sure.
They have been the most perfect architects of how to indoctrinate how people think. And it's been done for so long that it's just a well-oiled machine at this point. So, for me, that's why I'm like, do I really want to send my kids to public school, or do I need to privately like teach them at home? Because are you really learning what you need to be learning about your history? And I don't think any children that are of color are being taught their true history. Now you have people like DeSantis who trying to take African American history completely out the curriculum.
Yeah.
As if we just don't have no history at all.
Mhm.
And before integration, you didn't see a lot of parents homeschooling because they knew when they were going to those black schools and those elementary schools, they were getting what was outside of education outside of those books, because those books, like you said, won't telling the true story. But the integration caused people now, you got a lot of black people now homeschooling, like you said you would do that, because you know that they're being cheated as far as their history, or indoctrinated with lies or half truths. So
Mhm.
integration, really hurt education, and you heard a lot of people see that. But that's where we
James,
are.
it really hurt us because our teachers were the most qualified teachers in the school system. And the teachers were
That's why they
invested.
took them out when
That's why
integration. They took them out,
that's right.
fed them in those
That's
white
right.
schools.
That's right. Took them
The
out and sent
best.
them to the other schools. And they were invested in the point of our learning. They made sure that we learned. They made sure that the information was given to us. Even if the information was not in the books, those teachers found a way to get that information to us. And that just doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But now I understand why your generation did not want to be integrated.
No.
Because for
A
what?
lot of,
We
a lot of
had
people
we had
saw that.
everything we
Like,
needed.
remember we mentioned about Principal Waters,
Yes.
the statement he made. A lot of those people back there saw what would happen if we integrated.
They did. They did. They
And they end
did.
up being prophets as far as that was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I beg to differ. I think we really needed integration, but we had elected leaders in this country that put policies out there that kept the old Confederacy alive, and that's why you see the DeSantis and you see the racists like and people like the twice impeached, disgraced, now indicted ex-president trying to rewrite history. And so integration, we had to see the other side, because we couldn't have gone on, and without integration, we still would have had separate but equal. And there was never going to be equal anywhere.
But that's the thing. It's still not equal now. Whether we integrated or not, it would have never been equal, and it's not equal now. But at least back then, as people of color, as Black people, there was so much more pride in our heritage and in our history and in our skin that was ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it as, when I look at Black Wall Street and how they were able to become so prominent in creating their own town, their own city, with doctors, lawyers, people who had their own businesses. Like, it was so many things that and I guarantee you they would have never had to leave outside of that space if they didn't want to. But because integration happened, to me, it has allowed the watering down of our history and culture, and we've lost so much of it because of integration.
Mm-hmm.
That's my view on integration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was going to happen sooner or later, but when it happened, they just did it. They didn't. It was no real thought. Okay, how are we going to continue to teach? Black. They just threw black and whites all together, because when I went to Wilson that first year, teachers were ignoring us. I mean, you raise your hand, and they looked the other way. This was in '68. I'm at Wilson.
Wow.
And then I told the story about the principal calling us gorillas because we were growing afro.
Wow.
You know, and this was in '68, so they weren't prepared. It should have been, I don't know. I don't know how it could have been done differently at that time, but it was just all of a sudden, one year you coming out of all black, and next year, and it was the whites and blacks who had never interacted, sitting beside each other in the classroom, and nobody was ready for that.
Well, you're never ready for it. You never will be ready for it. But we've still come a long way, but they're still turning back the clock. The integration has given us on the chance to still compete in education, which improves our lives through the various jobs out here and positions in the trade schools and here in the public sector. Integration has helped us with those being equal in those jobs and the professions. Integration helped us with all of that. So integration was a good thing, but the other side wants to separate us from that because they see the progress that we've made, and they want to turn that progress back to make America great days. And want to go back to say you're being desensitized, and you don't look a person, people of color can't look at a white person in the eyes anymore, or you don't say anything. You know, they want to go back to those days.
I just think it's so crazy how we have allowed ourselves as our people to be brainwashed for so long as if we were the inferior people of this planet, when in actuality we were always the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
We have never been the minority.
Mm-hmm.
But someone told us that we were, and we believed.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and to me, that has crushed us from the beginning of time, because of how nice and loving we have been as a people. That was our downfall as a society, as a people.
But Roger, at some point, and I guess you're talking more modern days, but at some point, you know, because that started in a generation that was passed down. At some point, people who dared to not believe that were either strung up,
Yeah, that's right.
ostracized, or something happened to them.
And listen,
you
I
see
say
that
it all
even
the
happening
time.
today.
I say it all the time. If I would have been born during that time, I'd be dead.
yes.
Because I just couldn't have sat back and just let nothing happen. Like this is just not in me.
Yeah, I agree. But
I'm happy I was born during the time I was born now.
Yes, but you know, here's the other piece too. You talked about Black Wall Street. We're the only population or subset population that does not stick and support one another.
That's a slave mentality. We still in that slave mentality.
Yes.
Of crabs in the barrel. You know, one person try to make it out, the other person pull you down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Colonel and Roderick, it reminds me of a story that was told to me about this lady who needed a repairman who came to her house. And the black man came to her house and he told her everything that she needed to have done. And he told her that what his price was going to be. And so she says, well, I'm going to get another estimate. So she had the white contractor to come out, and he looked at the house and he told her everything that she needed to have done. And his estimate was twice that of the black contractor. And the next day, when it was time for the work to be done, the black contractor comes to her house. And she tells him, she says, well, I didn't hire you. I told you I didn't need your services. I hired another contractor. And he said, yeah, I know, but I subcontract for that guy. And you could have gotten this job for half the price. So often we dismiss our own without further research to see what they're capable of doing before we say that we don't need your services. So,
you preaching now. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got to get to the point where we do the research. You know, we got a lot of people who come up and tell us they're going to do things and they half do things and what have you. But once again, James, I agree with you. You can't judge them all by what a few fail to do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can tell
Mhm.
you what happens, we're so quick, a black contractor per se, or a black real estate agent comes out and that person messes up. Well, I ain't gonna deal with no more black people,
No
no more black
more
people.
black people. I don't want no
But,
black person to come to my
but,
house.
but how many chances will we give that white contractor?
Yeah.
Okay, I messed up, but I'll be back tomorrow to correct
Over
it.
and over and
Over
over
and
again.
over again, we'll give that person a chance. But the first time one of us
That's right.
messes up,
That's right.
we
That's right.
dismiss the whole race. And
Yeah.
I've had that, had that told me,
Mhm.
had people say that to me. Well, I ain't gonna deal, and even tell me. And I guess they didn't know I was a realtor at that time. He said, "Whatever you do, don't get no black realtor, or don't get no black contractor." One of them messed me up. That was him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's
We're
kind
the
of
only ones that hold it
yeah.
against the whole
We'll
race.
dismiss the whole race because one guy messed.
One person mess up.
Yeah.
I better go to Mr. Charlie now.
Mhm.
Mr. Charlie, charge him half the, double the price. Or
Double the price.
we might have to charge him more because we have to in order
Exactly.
to survive.
Exactly.
Mr. Charlie doesn't
Exactly.
have to because he got everything. But for us to get to a certain level, we might have to charge enough just to pay for our overhead that we can't get, that Mr. Charlie can get at a certain price. So
Mhm.
people
That's
need
true.
to understand that.
Yeah, there's a lot of other mitigating factors that come into play sometimes that may be out of our control as, black people in these spaces where, a white person could come in and get better prices on materials than a black person can. It's just like when this black family had their house appraised by this white realtor. But their house was set up like a black person's house. They had African stuff in it and everything, and they got a certain price. Then they had somebody else come in and change the whole inside of the house to make it seem as though a white person lived there, and the house price almost doubled.
Mhm. Roderick,
That is just
And I experienced that
mind-boggling.
as a realtor. I experienced that. And I have my thoughts on that too. But go ahead, Colonel.
every house that I bought and sold when I move around the country, when we sold the house, we have what I call de-blacked it. We have de-blacked it. And like my daughter just bought another house, and one she sold and the one she bought, and she
But can you de-white it?
huh?
Maybe some black people might not want to buy a house that a white person lived in. Can it be?
Yeah. But I have, over Cleaver, Mr. Cleaver's picture up there with the dog up there on the fireplace.
That's fine.
Yeah. And
Nasty.
yeah, and so you de-black it, and so you'll get the appraisal and you'll get the money. The people think that this house is well kept up. But if it's black, then I can't sleep in it. That's how
Which always makes me laugh because they try to make it seem as though we're so unclean and we do this and we do that. When we the ones who civilized white people in the beginning, we the ones who taught them to clean themselves and bathe themselves. So
and I went in as a realtor. I went in white people's houses and they get cats sitting on the refrigerator. Not one cat. One cat was on the refrigerator. Another cat was on the kitchen table, and then another cat was in the living room. And when you walked in the house, you could smell, and it was like a $300,000 house. And cats in the kitchen. Now, you had to decat that house. Let me change this for a minute because I know this is a good subject. Justice Clarence Thomas.
Oh yeah.
Oh Lord Jesus, have mercy.
Yeah.
Uncle Tom himself.
Uncle Tom himself. And I don't think anything will come out of this stuff because it's not, they're the only part of the judicial system in the United States that don't have a ethics code that they have to follow. And I think, can Congress change that? They're the ones who appoint them. Can Congress add something?
I think Congress would be the one that would have to change.
And this Congress is not going to do that.
This
Mm-mm.
Congress won't touch them. They may have because the Democrats have a 2 vote, well, actually, with 2 phony, 2 weak senators.
Votes.
So they can hold hearings, but nothing will happen to Uncle Clarence.
Mm-mm.
Nothing will happen because
And you think if the latest justice that got in there, the black woman,
Mhm.
if she took those trips like that, what do you think would happen?
They would
Ketanji would be out the
No
next,
question.
she would be out of there the next day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They
They
can't
would-
impeach judges. They can't impeach justices.
Yes, they can.
I said they can.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said they probably would impeach her.
Oh, you know they would.
If she took lavish trips and
Yeah.
Wouldn't
things
think
like
twice
that,
about it.
Yeah,
or they were paying for her mother's house.
but
So he's getting the privileges of living like a white person.
yes, but the thing is, all the stuff that has been noted publicly, why have they not, say Congress and it had opened up an investigation? Why has not the IRS come after him or open up an investigation?
The same reason the IRS didn't come after Trump.
Exactly. They're scared of Trump. And they're scared of Clarence.
The IRS will come after each one of us
Yes.
With no problem.
with no problem.
Yes.
Wouldn't blink an eye.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
blink an eye.
So there's 2 justice systems out here.
Go into our account, take our money,
Yeah.
take our house.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 2 justice systems.
But I just thought that was interesting. All that stuff come out about him, and he probably felt comfortable that nothing was going to happen to him because he sits in that world.
Yeah. The law is not applicable to him.
He still feels that way.
Yeah, he knows it. Nothing's going to happen to him, and
Mhm.
he's got a seat for life. And then so the only thing that'll take him out is the good Lord takes him out. That's
Yeah.
only
That's it. And
Yeah.
and Jim, and what about Marjorie Taylor Greene? I hate to even say her name.
yes.
She was taken down a notch this week. She was taken down a notch this week when they were having the hearing, and she called the Secretary of Homeland liar.
Yes.
Just truly the cuff and just not knowing what to say. But it's, and I was really amazed and her down. The Republicans shut her down.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems as though if they don't do with Marjorie and with your guy from New York and DeSantis, they're going to be in for a whooping in 2024.
Yes.
Yeah, and that leads into what they did to the brothers in Tennessee. It backfired on them, but what they did to the brothers in Tennessee for representing the people that put them there. So
Right.
Mhm.
For doing their job.
for doing their job. And it was crazy to watch the questions those guys were asked. And then when the one brother said, "Would you want to be asked that?" Calmly the way they handled that, and then they got put right back in there. Be interesting to see how that goes going forward.
Yeah.
I don't think they will try to do that again.
No.
But,
no.
No, because they have a movement behind them now.
Yeah, all those people
Movement behind them.
and to the point of we're talking about younger people, they got a lot of young people behind them, which is where their power is coming from as far as support.
Yep.
Now, isn't it amazing that
And
it's
young black and white.
But isn't it amazing that it's in the same place where Martin Luther King went to fight for the rights of the people in Memphis, Tennessee?
Yeah.
And then we come right back out of that same arena again with these young leaders who are just beyond, I mean, they're just amazing. Their thought patterns are amazing. Their belief in the things that they can do is amazing. And to watch them in action and to hear them in action, and that they truly believe in the cause in which they're fighting for.
And that's why we can't go to sleep, and think everything is okay.
Exactly.
I
Just
agree.
because a lot of us are doing well and everything like that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
some of the people that are doing extraordinarily well. I mean, just like Oprah got tagged. Was she in Paris or somewhere? Well, Oprah got tagged going in a regular store to buy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, she
That's
went into
right.
Hermes
Yeah.
to buy a Birkin.
So she probably could buy the store, but
hmm
Mm-hmm.
we can't fall asleep. And I hope the younger and the older people are waking up and seeing everything
Yeah.
the way it is.
Well, you know what?
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We come a long way, and
Mhm.
we got a lot
We're
of
not
things.
quite there yet.
We got a lot of things that are in our favor, that we can do and go. But you can see what's happening.
Well, one of the things you talk about the two young brothers and what happened in Tennessee, but this has to equal all across the nation for all those who are protesting and marching for, say, for an abortion or gun rights or anything. We're 2 years out from the 24 election, and the next elections for this, 1/3 of the Senate and the whole House of Representatives. We should be out there registering every non-registered voter out there. Every kid that's graduated is going to turn 18 starting now to 24. They need to be touched and explain how these races are going to affect you. And if you don't like if you want to get that release from your say for your school loans and stuff like that, show them the articles where McCarthy and the Confederates want to take that money away from the federal government to stop these kind of programs. Show them the paperwork in black and white where they have gone off and saying a pill, a medication that has been out there for 25 years, that is one of the safest pill medications out there. They take it away because we have a crooked judge, a non-qualified crooked judge down there in Texas, backed up by a court of appeals down there in that circuit where they're all that two out of the three are Trump
Appointees.
and now have said the same thing when this lawsuit that came had really no standing, and they're finding out that it was false.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff that they got it going through, and now it's going to be all the way up to the Supreme Court. And if they say this is going to happen, then you have what's next is the people that don't like get your flu shots or whatever these vaccines or any kind of pills or that you're going to have. It's going to fall down. It can be challenged and wiped out.
Trying to take Viagra off the market, then you'll see a major movement.
Yeah.
See a
Yeah.
Take
major
it off the
movement.
market.
See
Take
a
it off the
movement.
market.
See a movement in more ways than one. Take it
Well,
off
I
the
would
market.
say statistically, the Viagra is that abortion pill is safer than Viagra.
I know it is. I know it is.
Yeah. Some people have taken Viagra that have heart conditions and didn't know it. And
Gone.
yeah,
I just find it so amazing that men have tried to regulate women's bodies since the beginning of time.
yeah.
Beginning of time.
And it is the very place from which you came.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as soon as you made some progress with Roe versus Wade, then they come and take that away.
It's just
That
it's
wasn't
just so
complete
crazy to me.
progress, but it was something that was on the books.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it all boils down to those men, and backed up by the few women legislators on the Confederate side. They believe that all women are their property with less rights. Boils down to that's it right there. That's your piece of their property, and they don't want you to do this. They got to have
Dark age thinking.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It goes way back.
way back.
No vote, women couldn't vote, they couldn't.
Exactly.
We did y'all hear about this story in California where it had more of a dozen police officers that were texting each other and calling, referring to black people as monkeys and gorillas. And they also put on those texts, threatened to assassinate the black mayor.
It wasn't California, was it Oklahoma?
Yes,
This
It
was
was
in
Oklahoma.
well, it must have been happening again. This story said California,
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
but and the mayor was Lamar Thorpe.
Mhm.
You know, but they were texting each other. And these are police officers, the guys that might pull you over,
Yeah.
referring to us as monkeys and gorillas. And,
Yeah.
like I said earlier on the show, I heard that gorilla thing before, but that was in '68.
Yeah.
But James, you're right. I think you
2022.
are right about California. I think the other case in Oklahoma, the
They were
reporter had left a
legislators.
recording
Yeah.
and he recorded what they were saying.
They were
Mhm.
legislators though, right?
Mm-hmm.
In California, these were cops, the guys that pulled you
Wow.
over. And more than a dozen, a bunch of them, texting each other. And what were they thinking? Texting? Where do you think texts go? I mean, anybody can pick it up. You know, these guys can hack our Facebook accounts. They can pick up your texts.
You better believe that. You better believe it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I mean, that's an example of where the country is going. I mean, all over the place. I mean, we got these guys, and to Roderick's point, you know, they've been indoctrinated and fed this stuff, just like you might, black people might have been fed this stuff and believe it. A lot of white folks were fed this stuff from
Oh
generation
yeah. Oh
to
yeah.
generation. And when they grow into adults, it's still there.
Mhm.
You know, might not be there on the surface when you look at them, but it's still there, isn't it? And it comes
But
out at some point.
But James, you know it's still there when you look at January 6th and you look at the fact that police officers were involved. There were military officers who were involved. There were people of great stature, medical, professional people who were involved. It's because they were so indoctrinated by the Fox channel and Donald Trump. They were fed this thing over and over again that they forgot from whence they've come. They forgot what
Mhm.
what they're supposed to be doing, and they immediately joined into what was taking place January 6th.
Yeah. And this
I
is
agree.
Oh, and one other story. I guess you heard about the man that was in jail and he died from being infected by multiple bugs.
Ooh.
And the first autopsy was, they said it was undetermined how he died. And Kevin Colin Kaepernick paid for a second autopsy, and that's when they figured out, that's when it was revealed that he was in such filth in that jail, filled with so many bugs, that's what killed him.
Mhm.
Wow.
The first autopsy by the sheriff's department or whoever ran that jail, it was undetermined.
Well, you
Wow.
already know that jail, especially down south, is another form of slavery.
Mhm. You're not even human.
Yeah, you're not human, and that's why every time for just jaywalking, you get a felony. And so if I can't put you in jail, I take your right to vote because you have a felony, and so you can't vote again. And then that takes you out of the employment population, and was basically your life is done. You got to go back to a life of crime.
And I'm not saying some of those people in jail don't they do horrific crimes, but it's so many people walking out here. I don't know what's going to happen to this 84-year-old guy that shot that young boy. I think the court of public opinion is going to get him in the courts, but you're not going to put him in jail for life. He's 84 years old. I don't know what's
Right.
that just shows you what,
But
you talked about the ball rolling in the yard, that people get shot. You go up and ring a doorbell and you got shot. And then they showed him coming out when the guy was running away, still shooting at him. Lucky
And
the
what about
young
the
boy had
what
enough
about
in him to
yeah?
haul ass. I mean, well, excuse me, that might get a strike.
But what about the neighbor who went to help him and made him lay on the ground and put his hands up in the air?
Yeah, well, that's after several people
What
wouldn't open
psychology
the
is
door.
that? is that, you know?
You know, and when I saw that, I kind of thought about that. I said, with the environment like it is today, would I have gone to the door and helped somebody bleeding on my front porch? And I guess it's gonna have to happen for me to, I can say, yeah, I probably would, but with everything going on and people staging things and you go out there to help and you get robbed or something
You
like
get
that,
robbed, yeah,
that goes
yeah.
through your mind. But hopefully I would hope or think that I would help, but I just don't know.
But James, and you wonder too, what's going to happen with the community organizers and those people who work the communities, they walk the streets on
Mhm.
behalf of political individuals, as well as in walking for social change and social justice. What chances are they taking going up to inform people about what's going on and a day-to-day basis? They don't know what they're going to encounter. Does that end now? Does that come to an end because we got so many people with guns so willing to come to the door and shoot anybody who's on the porch? What
Mhm.
happens now?
You know, the only way they can do, just like you have to register as a sex offender, known racists gonna have to be registered, because this
Yep.
guy, this 84-year-old man, his grandson disassociated with him because he always talked about, he always talked anti-black, anti-gay, anti-immigrant stuff. So he was a known racist. So if they have to register as a known racist, you know, growing up in the neighborhood,
That's enough.
certain
That's
places not
enough.
Well,
say,
the other piece is that, the young kid ran for the next door to the next two houses that didn't get any help.
That's what.
You got to publicize the names and the families, names of that family in the paper and on social media. And then you have to shame them for once. And then you also take that a step farther, is to boycott where they work to get them fired. And when they're fired, and then we look at them going down the toilet stool of that, just like they did with Karen and New York City.
well, communities are different now, Colonel, because we go back in the day, we
Nope.
knew who, on Halloween, we knew whose house not to go to.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
but the neighborhoods are so different now where everybody lives in their little separate world, not as a neighborhood. And you don't know, if most people, well, the guy made a mistake, the young boy made a mistake, but I was going to say most people would know, don't go to that guy's house, he's a stone racist, but or he's a double worshiper or something like that, but you would know that in the neighborhoods like we grew up
So he
in.
would not have known that. He went to the
Yeah,
wrong.
I'm saying, yeah, he wouldn't have known that. Even in our neighborhood, he just made a mistake, went to the wrong house, so
Yeah.
he wouldn't have known that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Leah, I know you were driving. We kind of wait till you got home. I didn't want to sign off or anything while you were still out there.
Wow, you are so kind and so considerate to make sure that I'm safely indoors before you decide to sign off. I appreciate that so very much.
Yes.
Whew.
Oh, by the way, the man that shot the 6-year-old child and the parents,
Did they
he
catch
just
him?
got to Florida.
They caught him?
Yeah, they caught him. He's down in Florida and got arrested.
Yeah, he shot. He was black though, right?
I don't know.
I thought I saw a picture. I'm not sure, but yeah, he shot.
So he shot them and then fled.
And then took off. Yeah.
Took off.
He ran for the hills.
Yep.
That's crazy.
They got him, and the last kind of sad story is that teens party, Sweet 16 party.
Yes, Lord. Sweet 16 party.
And all the people involved, that they caught 5 now, and all of them were like from 16 to 20. And the ones that they have caught and charged already, there's 5 of them, and it's 16 to 20-year-olds. I guess have y'all heard? I guess it was gang related, or
Yeah.
and they probably were after one person.
One person, everybody else dies as a result of it.
Yeah.
4 died and 32
Injured.
shot.
Yes.
I really don't think that people just don't be thinking. They just don't think. They just act. And then nowadays, kids and parents and grandparents used to be off limits. Now it's no code. Don't
No,
nobody
yeah,
have
no
no
code,
code.
especially kids, you know.
Mhm.
It's just crazy.
But yeah,
You
you have
know,
kids, grandparents, and you know, because in most cases, they're the people that had nothing to do with what you out there doing now, you know,
Hmm.
and they'll be off limits, even with the most hardened criminals out there. They, you know, but all that's changed now. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. Well, you know, Slim, well, we've gone 18 minutes over our time. So we don't want to go too far over for those who are going to listen to us.
Okay, we wind down. Leah's back home. I was, you know, like I said, I know she's
I,
out there
I think
driving,
I
and we can
thank
see
you
it
all.
getting dark. Okay,
I
well,
thank you all for
we can
waiting
wind
for
down.
me.
If any last comments from the host, and we'll close this out.
Go ahead.
Great, Colonel.
Well, first of all, for those out there in electron lands, I got to make some housekeeping things. For those who are out there that like to and like to hear us talk and seeing this kind of broad-based subjects that we talk about and putting the truth out there, we need your help so we can continue that. And because through your donations, which 100% of your donations goes back into this program, you can send a donation to Portsmouth Coffee Talk, P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707. And I'd like to thank you ahead for any donations that you give us, because they're greatly needed so that we can bring the truth to you.
And thank you. Also remember Cash App, $ PCT 1220, PCT 1220, and Portsmouth Coffee Talk at yahoo.com. That's Zelle. So
Roderick.
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for having me this evening. I always enjoy coming on and giving my perspective and my insight on whatever it is that we may be speaking about. So thank you again. And I look forward to many other talks moving forward throughout the spring, summer.
And I hope that some of the things we talked about would challenge your thinking, would challenge your thoughts. And as the Colonel said, we are entering a crucial time in our history. It's important that each of you who are able to vote to go and register to vote. And once you have registered, don't sit on your laurels. Once you've registered, it is important that you go to the vote polls and you cast your ballot. Many
Mhm.
died because to give you that right, to have that right to vote.
Mhm.
Many died and had all types of atrocities placed against them so that you would have the right to vote. So all of this stuff that we talked about today means nothing if you do not go to the polls and vote. We got an
100%.
election coming up June 20th. It's a primary, but get out there and cast your ballots on June 20th.
yeah.
You
Don't
know,
take primaries lightly.
exactly. And if you don't vote, you have no voice to say anything about what's going on.
That part.
I just like to end it by saying thanks everybody for watching, and we're here on Portsmouth Coffee Talk, the host. We're all individualists. We mostly think a lot, but we disagree on some things, but it never goes to the point where none of us want to come back anymore. We just
Exactly.
disagree and think about it later and say, okay, well, maybe Leah was right on that point, but at that time we disagreed. But
Exactly.
anyway, but that's what we feel like you don't want to see a bunch of people that agree on everything. That would be
Exactly.
crazy.
It makes for a dull show.
Yeah, like a
We
It's
all
dull
very
knife.
agree on
boring.
everything.
Yeah.
Like
Very
James Brown
boring.
said, like a dull knife, it just ain't cutting.
How about that?
But anyway, we want to say Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice.
For our future,
For our future, for me, your
for our community.
yes.
And
But I
Roger,
think we gotta get-
maybe you can
we gotta
say
get
for
that,
our
Roger.
truth or something like that.
Yes, I'm going to come up with what word
Yeah.
I'm going to
Okay.
use, and then
And
I'm going to go ahead and get me a mug.
Well, we have a
Yeah.
coffee talk. We have a cup for you. So
We got
just a
some-
matter of
Okay.
getting it to you. Okay.
And
Awesome.
it'll be right before the future. So
Love it, love it, love it.
Okay, awesome.
thanks everybody, and we appreciate you. And good night, and join us Monday. Still waiting on to confirm Monday's guest. Hopefully he'll be the principal of Churchland High School, but we're waiting to confirm that. So stay tuned.
I will get on him right now.
Yeah,
Did
I
he
sent him an email the other day. So
Okay.
make sure he got it.
I'll just do a reminder.
Okay,
I'll do a reminder to him. Okay.
that's fine.
Because there are other schools in Portsmouth besides Norcom High School. Can you
Oh, really?
believe it?
Where?
Where
Where?
they at?
Across the bridge? Where is that? Yeah. That's not Portsmouth.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll send Malachi a message. Okay.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
All right.
Bye bye.